Welcome back to Daily World 60. This is our weekly deep dive where we slow down, take one big story, and unpack what really happened and why it matters. 2 months after a fragile ceasefire paused one of the most dangerous wars in a generation, Iran and Israel are trading missiles again. Here is the full story of what broke and what it means for the world. Let's get into it. On the evening of June 7, 2026, Israeli warplanes struck the southern suburbs of Beirut, Lebanon. At least 2 people were killed and 11 were wounded. This violated a fragile local ceasefire agreed just days before. Iran had warned many times that any Israeli attack on Beirut's suburbs would force it to respond. The next morning, Iran launched nearly 30 ballistic missiles toward Israel. Most were intercepted by Israel's missile defense systems. But despite a personal appeal from President Donald Trump asking for restraint, Israel retaliated. Israeli aircraft struck military sites across Iran and hit a large petrochemical complex in Mashhad, in southwest Iran, an important economic target. By Monday afternoon, both sides announced they would stop. But their conditions were very different. Iran said it would halt attacks only if Israel also stopped its operations in Lebanon. Israel said it alone would decide where and when to strike. This was the worst escalation since the original ceasefire began in April, the 100th day of a war that has already killed thousands and sent oil prices surging across the globe. The question everyone was asking, had the peace just ended? To understand June 2026, you need to go back nearly 5 decades. In 1979, the Islamic Revolution transformed Iran from a U.S. ally into a fierce enemy of Israel. Iran's new government refused to recognize Israel and began building a network of armed groups across the Middle East: Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen. These groups fought Israel on Iran's behalf. Experts called this a proxy conflict. This changed in 2024. Israel began striking Iranian nuclear and military facilities directly. Iran fired massive missile barrages in return. The conflict escalated through 2024 and exploded into open warfare in June 2025, 12 days of intensive strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, ballistic missiles, and military command. That conflict became known as the 12-Day War. Iran survived, but its military was badly damaged. Its nuclear program was set back. And yet the fundamental question was never answered. Would Iran eventually build a nuclear weapon? Both sides had hurt each other deeply. Neither had won a decisive victory. The conditions for an even larger conflict were being set in place. The next explosion would come 8 months later, in February 2026. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched the most intensive military campaign against Iran in modern history. The goals were to permanently destroy Iran's nuclear program, dismantle its ballistic missile infrastructure, and force a change in government. In the very first hours, Israeli aircraft killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, the man who had led Iran for 34 years. Iran's response was massive. Hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles targeted Israel, U.S. military bases in the Gulf, and neighboring Arab states. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which 20% of global oil flows. Crude oil prices surged past $120 per barrel. Economies around the world felt immediate pain. By early March, Iran had named a new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the 56-year-old son of the slain leader. He inherited a country in deep crisis, its military degraded, its economy under severe pressure, and its leadership fractured and divided. A ceasefire was announced on April 7th, after roughly 5 weeks of intense fighting. By then, thousands were dead, millions displaced, and the Middle East had been fundamentally changed. The ceasefire talks involve several key players, and their interests do not easily align. In Iran, power is no longer concentrated in one person. Mojtaba Khamenei holds the title of supreme leader, but lacks the authority his father built over 3 decades. Real power is shared among IRGC generals, senior clerics, and security officials who often disagree. President Trump noted publicly that Iran's leadership was too fractured to submit a unified peace proposal. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been consistent. Lebanon is not part of any ceasefire with Iran. For Netanyahu, continued military pressure on Hezbollah is essential for his political survival and for Israel's long-term security. Trump wants to be the deal-maker who ends the war, a historic achievement for his second term. But he has repeatedly backed Netanyahu on Lebanon, making a comprehensive agreement far harder to reach. And then there is Hezbollah, technically a separate party, but deeply connected to Iran's position. Hezbollah rejected ceasefire terms it did not negotiate directly. Its rockets into northern Israel triggered the June 7th strikes that set off this latest crisis. Every actor has reasons to continue fighting and reasons to stop. That tension has defined every day of the peace process since April. At the heart of the ceasefire crisis is one critical disagreement: Lebanon. When Iran and the United States agreed to a ceasefire on April 7th, Iran stated that it covered all fronts, including Lebanon. Netanyahu immediately rejected this, saying the deal did not include Lebanon. Within hours, Israel launched its heaviest strikes on Beirut in weeks. The ceasefire's first day had already produced its first major crisis. For Iran, Lebanon is not optional. Hezbollah is Iran's most powerful regional ally, built over 40 years of funding, weapons, and training. It is the cornerstone of Iran's axis of resistance, its network of armed groups across the Middle East. Accepting a ceasefire that lets Israel dismantle Hezbollah while Iran stands aside would be deeply humiliating for Tehran. For Israel, the logic is equally firm. Hezbollah holds one of the largest non-state missile arsenals in the world. It has fought multiple wars against Israel from southern Lebanon. Letting Hezbollah survive and rearm would mean the entire war achieved nothing of lasting value. Lebanon has paid an enormous price. More than 1/6 of the country's population has been displaced. The nation was already fragile before the war. Now it is a battlefield for two much larger powers with no clear path forward. The Iran war has reminded the world of something it had perhaps forgotten. The global economy runs, in large part, on oil that passes through one narrow waterway. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, but it carries roughly 20% of global oil supplies and a large share of liquefied natural gas. When Iran closed it in early March 2026, the International Energy Agency called it the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Oil prices surged past $120 per barrel. Gasoline costs spiked across Europe, Asia, and North America. Airlines raised fares. Food prices climbed because higher fuel costs raised transportation prices. Nations far from the conflict, in sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Latin America, experienced higher inflation and economic strain. Stock markets fell sharply around the world. Some currencies lost significant value against the dollar. After the April ceasefire, prices dropped roughly 20% from their peak as investors hoped for a lasting deal. But each new escalation reverses those gains. The June strikes pushed prices upward again. The world economy cannot fully recover until there is stable, comprehensive peace. Every fragile day in the Gulf costs ordinary people around the world real money. The central question now is whether the ceasefire can survive and what lasting peace would actually require. The two sides remain far apart. The United States wants Iran to permanently end its nuclear program, limit its ballistic missiles, reopen the strait, and cut funding to armed groups. Iran wants war reparations, international security guarantees, and Lebanon included in any comprehensive deal. Iran's nuclear stockpile was not destroyed. Intelligence officials say uranium enrichment has paused, but Iran still holds significant quantities of enriched material. The nuclear infrastructure, though damaged, is partially intact. This is Israel's deepest fear, that any ceasefire simply gives Iran time to recover and rebuild. For Mojtaba Khamenei, still consolidating power, the political pressure is enormous. He cannot appear to be surrendering to American and Israeli demands. For Netanyahu, the same is true in reverse. He cannot sign a deal that looks soft on Hezbollah. The June 7th events showed exactly how fragile this situation is. A few rockets from Hezbollah, a few Israeli aircraft over Beirut, and the entire structure comes close to collapse. Peace talks remain blocked on Lebanon and nuclear weapons, the two hardest issues in the conflict. 100 days into this war, a durable peace remains possible, but it is still distant. The coming weeks will decide whether the ceasefire holds or whether the region heads back toward open war. Today's word, ceasefire. An agreement between enemies to stop fighting, usually while negotiations continue. That is the full story behind this week's headlines. If you want to understand the world's biggest stories, not just what happened, but why it matters, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the weekly deep dive.